Hello from the Channel studio in London and welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches, the programme that takes you around the world in 25 minutes. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. On the programme this week, survivors mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day under the shadow of the October 7 Hamas attack in Israel and reports of surging anti-Semitism around the world. As the world commemorated International Holocaust Remembrance Day, reflecting on the 6 million Jewish lives lost and the widespread persecution under the Nazis, the United Nations Secretary-General emphasized the urgent need to combat hatred and division. In Israel, this year's remembrance took on a different tone following the Hamas terror attack and the ongoing conflict in Gaza.
As a child, Sarah Jackson survived the Nazi Holocaust. On October the 7th last year, she found herself sheltering 3 Israelis fleeing the deadliest massacre of Jews since World War II. Marking the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, they were reunited for the first time since Hamas gunmen tore through revelers at the outdoor Supernova Music Festival in southern Israel, killing more than 360 people at the site and dragging others back to Gaza.
I hit my head up and the bullet went so close to my ear that I couldn't hear for like a few hours. It was really like painful, the fact that it was so close. And then I was in total shock. I was just lying there, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know how to act. Luckily Daniel was very aware of the situation. He told us, guys, are with me, I'm coming to tree, we need to get out of here, we cannot stay here, there are gunshots from all over. So we said 1, 2, 3, then we jumped to the car, we started driving. When we started driving, we saw a grenade which fell literally several meters from us. It was all in smoke and we drove away.
88-year-old Jackson recounted her experiences of loss, hiding and perseverance while growing up as a Jewish child in wartime Poland and Siberia. She was 4 years old when the war started.
It was very little what to eat, and we were very hungry. I know my mother was telling that I couldn't fall asleep because I was so hungry, and my father said, give her a little bit of bread, and my mother said, no, you can sleep without, but tomorrow morning we'll need the bread in the morning. And we were like that 5 years, and I was already 7 years old. I tell you, this last event, I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe it's happening again. That's why I didn't want to leave my home. And even now, even now I can't understand. I can't take it that things like happened again. Like, it's very hard for me.
Currently, there are approximately 245,000 Holocaust survivors in the world, spread across 90 countries. Almost half of these survivors live in Israel. For many, Hamas's onslaught recalled past atrocities. Adva Adar's grandmother, a Holocaust survivor, was kidnapped by Hamas from her house in a kibbutz. She was released in November during a hostage prisoner swap deal. The 85-year-old spent 50 days in captivity.
It's not easy. I mean, she has a lot to understand about what happened to her and about what happened to this country and to her community in Iroz. It's a lot to process, and she was very strong there. So right now, it's starting to sink more, and it's not easy, but I can say that she's very, very strong. It's really, really hard. Seeing your grandmother being taken hostage. I don't know if there's any emotion that can describe. We were terrified and we were very we were terrified. I think it somehow explains it. But thinking about her in this condition, thinking about how powerless she felt, being alone at her house when the terrorists got in and took her. She had nothing to do. She had no way to protect herself, no way to hold the door. How can you enter to an 85-year-old woman and kidnap her from her bed?
Adding to the distress of survivors, anti-Semitism has been on the rise as Israel presses on with its war in Gaza, where it has vowed to eliminate Hamas.
Fortunately, as I stand here before you, I have left my country in the wake of violence, murder, rape, and terror. After more than 100 days, there are still 136 kidnapped hostages, dead or alive, in the hands of the terrorists. Ask for your solidarity and your support to see those hostages reunited with their families. The entire country yearns to have them back alive. Help bring them back alive. Sadly, after October 7, the resurgence of anti-Semitism means that the hate of the past is still with us. Jews are again not feeling safe living in Europe. After the Holocaust, this should be unacceptable. Never again should truly mean never again.
Remembering victims of the Holocaust, the UN chief warned that hate is growing at an alarming speed and urged the world to strongly denounce forces of division, especially in the wake of the October terror attacks in Israel.
All of us, leaders and citizens, have a responsibility to listen and to learn from what you have to say and to act on it by condemning these terrible crimes against our common humanity, by striving to eradicate anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry, hatred and intolerance, and by finding a way forward to a shared, safe and inclusive future for our human family. And this is particularly important in today's dangerous and divided world. And a few short months after Hamas' horrific terror attacks, the anti-Semitism that fueled the Holocaust did not start with the Nazis, nor did it end with their defeat. The Holocaust was preceded by thousands of years of discrimination, expulsion, exile and extermination, including by my own country, Portugal. Today we are witnessing hate spreading at alarming speed. Online it has moved from the margins to the mainstream, and Holocaust denial and distortion are proliferating. It's up to all of us to defend the truth and to defend our common humanity. Racism and bigotry are a violation of everything we stand for.
In his remarks, the permanent representative of Israel to the United Nations expressed frustration at the body and the International Court of Justice.
From the crimes of the Nazis and their collaborators until the crimes of Hamas and radical Islam today, the genocidal ideology of exterminating the Jews has remained the same. Today is not only a day of remembrance. This day was designated to also prevent future acts of genocide, to internalize the lessons of the Holocaust, to never be silent, as silence, in the words of Elie Wiesel, encourages the tormentor, never the tormented, and indifference, not death, is the opposite of life.
It comes after South Africa recently brought a charge of genocide against Israel at the ICJ over its actions in Gaza. The court ruled that Israel must prevent genocide but did not order an immediate halt to its offensive.
We welcome the measures that the court ordered by a majority decision, ruling that the Israeli military should not commit acts of genocide against Palestinians. Israel should take all measures to prevent and punish incitement to genocide. Furthermore, it should take immediate and effective measures to allow basic services and humanitarian assistance. We expect Israel, as a self-proclaimed democracy and a state that respects the rule of law, to abide by the measures handed down by the International Court of Justice. After more than half a century of occupation, dispossession, oppression, and apartheid, the Palestinian people's cries for justice have been heeded by an eminent organ of the United Nations. Our own painful history obliges us to do no less. We thank the International Court of Justice for upholding its role of achieving justice, promoting peace, preventing genocide, and holding those responsible for genocide to be accountable. It is our earnest hope and wish that this court order paves the way for an end to this crisis and this painful experience that Palestinians are going through. And we hope for an end to the terrible loss of life and hardship, and for the crucial first steps to be taken towards reconciliation and a just, lasting peace.
Hamas uses civilians.
Israeli leaders have rejected accusations of genocide, saying its offensive is targeted at Hamas, not civilians.
Israel's commitment to international law is unwavering. Equally unwavering is our sacred commitment to continue to defend our country and defend our people. Like every country, Israel has an inherent right to defend itself. The vile attempt to deny Israel this fundamental right is blatant discrimination against the Jewish state, and it was justly rejected. The charge of genocide leveled against Israel is not only false, it's outrageous, and decent people everywhere should reject it. On the eve of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, I again pledge as Israel's Prime Minister, never again. Israel will continue to defend itself against Hamas, a genocidal terror organization. On October 7th, Hamas perpetrated the most horrific atrocities against the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and it vows to repeat these atrocities again and again and again. Our war is against Hamas terrorists, not against Palestinian civilians. We will continue to facilitate humanitarian assistance and to do our utmost to keep civilians out of harm's way, even as Hamas uses civilians as human shields. We will continue to do what is necessary to defend our country and defend our people.
Israel launched an offensive against Hamas in Gaza after the October the 7th attack. With the conflict now in its fourth month, the Gaza Health Authority says more than 26,000 Palestinians have died. 75% of the victims are said to be children and women, and there have been at least 60,000 registered injuries.
70% of the dead are children and women. That alone is enough for a ceasefire. Struggling to speak because the situation is beyond words. And I'm a true believer, because of my own experience, that war doesn't bring solution except more war, more hatred, more agony, more destruction. So let's choose peace and resolve this issue politically. And people are facing death or risk of death because of hunger and starvation and famine. If you add all that, I think it's not easy to understand how hellish the situation is.
According to the United Nations, an estimated additional 8,000 are missing, presumed dead under the rubble.
Thanks for staying with us on the program. Several global banks are now at risk of persecution in South Africa over allegations of manipulating the rand during the international forex trading scandal. This scandal has already resulted in substantial fines imposed on the banking industry worldwide by regulators. South Africa's Competition Commission announced its recommendation to prosecute a total of 17 banks. The investigation into rand manipulation was initiated in April 2015. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more details.
In what's shaping up to be a major legal upheaval, several global banks face the prospects of prosecution in South Africa over allegations of manipulating the rand. While some political party leaders are calling for strict punishment to rand manipulation implicated banks.
Look, I think from our perspective, firstly, we are seriously disgusted by the conduct of the financial institutions that acted in a very unpatriotic and greedy manner, between the period which is alleged between 2007 and 2013, which we are not too sure of ourselves. However, that behavior is tantamount to economic treason, actually.
In practical terms, what it has done is that it has led to a lot of suffering. A lot of people had their cars repossessed. A lot of people had their houses repossessed. Simply because with the depreciation of the rand, the interest rates went up. And that's why they were making a lot of money out of it. But it was at the expense of the poor. The economy suffered a lot. The cost of living went up.
Standard Chartered has agreed to pay 42.7 million rand settlement for manipulating the rand exchange rate. Some say the money is simply not enough.
From what we have discovered so far in the research that we've done, we've discovered that they made trillions in profit from fixing the rand. And as a result of that, I believe that just 42 million is literally nothing, not even 1% of how much they made as a result of this negligent behavior.
Meanwhile, economists say this will not have a long-term effect on the South African economy.
Standard & Chartered paid money for the problem to go away. I don't think it should be seen as a fine. And it's also important to note that although there could have been some manipulation in the short term of the exchange rate of the rand, as an example, I don't think it will have a long-term effect on the South African economy. The market is just far too big to have one or two banks, or even a couple of banks, to permanently influence the exchange rate of a currency in one direction or the other. And if they could do that, that specific manipulation will have to be reversed in the other direction soon. So the net effect on prices of the exchange rate, for example, is unlikely to have a significant impact on the financial markets or on the South African economy over time.
They approached us and asked us for assistance because we are in the foreign exchange market.
While the Competition Commission continues with its investigation, it also approached the South African Reserve Bank for assistance.
We head over to Kenya now, where a 15-year-old student has gained attention for his invention of an infinity reactor that he believes could potentially provide a sustainable and infinite source of energy. The teenager says this could put an end to the frequent blackouts in Kenya. Take a look.
How long did you? Must have taken some time, huh?
Yes. At the Moore High School, Kabarak in Nakuru County, 15-year-old Jim Kim Mwendwa is working diligently in the school laboratory on a model of his groundbreaking invention, an infinity reactor that he believes could potentially provide a sustainable and infinite source of energy for his country. The aspiring inventor provides insights into the workings of his creation.
This is a demonstration of what I've done. It's basically a motor and a dynamo. And according to what is supposed to happen is that the motor is supposed to actually have a higher input than the dynamo. So what I've done is that I've increased the output of the dynamo with little input of voltage inside the motor.
Deputy Principal of Moore High School, Kabarak, Richard Kimutai Rono, expresses astonishment at Jim Kim's ambitious project.
He is to come up with an infinity reactor. And according to him, this is a reactor that can be able to generate energy, that can power the world for infinity. In fact, we are really surprised by that. And his dream is to make this a reality. It is still at a pioneering stage where he's developing it, he's modeling it, and he's looking forward to making it a reality.
The teenager aims to address the prevalent issue of frequent blackouts in Kenya through his innovative approach to generating cheap and efficient electricity. Despite the need for a primary source of electricity to initiate the system, Jim Kim outlines a self-sustaining cycle once operational.
First, there is input of power from another source of power. When there's input of power, some of the rotation of the motor causes generation of electricity due to the circumferences changing the magnetic fields. And so there's a larger percentage of it being exerted out and a smaller percentage of it being used inside the infinite reactor to rotate the dynamo and also to cool the engine.
Must have taken some time, huh?
Jim Kim Mwendwa claims that his innovative solution has the potential to address power challenges in developing countries, offering a glimmer of hope for sustainable energy solutions.
And we're still in Kenya as we end the program. While Jim Kim hopes to tackle power outages in the country, Spencer Abiri is using pieces of broken mirrors and glass to create unique art while encouraging others to reduce waste. Spencer Abiri collects broken mirrors from dump sites like this one around his neighborhood in Nairobi, Kenya. Then, the real work begins for the artist.
I make art out of mirrors. For finances to buy the mirrors, I had to go to the various dump sites to collect mirrors. And then, after collecting those mirrors, I wash them. Then, I clean them, I dry them, and then I stick them to the suit. So due to that long process of collecting and making the suit, I was able to come up with a fully customized mirror costume.
One of his most fascinating works is this dazzling suit. Some other of his creations include bags, shoes, and even gloves made from glass. Barry started using broken mirrors and glass in his work because of lack of money to buy materials. But now, he hopes to create awareness about the importance of conserving the environment by making art from garbage.
Small pieces of mirrors or glasses are harmful to the environment as well as to people in general. I thought it better to collect those pieces of mirrors to create something beautiful and also to keep the environment clean. That means that any litter or any garbage or even any plastic can be used to create something beautiful.
He believes that initiatives that find unusual ways to work with discarded materials can be essential in dealing with all kinds of waste, especially in relation to one of Kenya's biggest problems, plastic waste. According to a study shared by the United Nations Environment Programme in 2020, 92% of the waste in Kenya is mismanaged, and there were no collection services registered in rural areas of the country. And that's the program for today. Remember, our top stories are never far away. You can catch them on channelstv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Tenyola Oyetayo. Bye for now.